Today we're going to have a lecture on continuous deployment using SSDT. Our speaker is Chris Wolf, and my name is Julie Blomquist. The PAS Summit is coming up. It's the PAS Summit 2017. It's October 31st through November 3rd. If you use the discount code VC15FPS6, you'll save an additional $150. This is the top SQL Server conference. The PAS Summit 2017 community hosted events. There's going to be a Women in Technology happy hour and networking event, SQL karaoke, and games. For more details, you could look at the activities page about on the PAS Summit site. We are one of many virtual chapters. And here are some upcoming SQL Saturdays. SQL Saturdays are a one-day mini conference. They have minimal costs involved, usually just covering your lunch, but they're throughout the world. We also have local chapters. You can check out this PAS chapter site and see if there is one in your area or if you would be interested in starting one. It gives you a great opportunity for in-person learning and the face-to-face networking, your opportunities to present or to share or to ask questions. With PAS, there are many opportunities for volunteering. And you can also recognize someone as an outstanding volunteer. If you discovered us on YouTube, we really would like you to become a SQL PAS member. You just go, it's a free membership. You get emails about our meetings, and then you're able to download the supplemental materials. You can also connect through your free membership with Facebook, Twitter, through the Pounds on SQL PAS and LinkedIn. Today we have Chris Wolf as our presenter about the continuous deployments using SSDT. Chris has been a developer, a report writer, and an admin in Microsoft SQL Server space since SQL Server 2000 in industries such as telecommunications, green energy, money transfers, and online accounting. He's been an active member of the Denver SQL user group since 2011 and enjoys learning new things about computers. His interests include video games, movies, and enjoying time with his wife and 2 kids. So Chris, I'm going to change the presenter over to you. There you go, Chris. You should have it now.
All right. Thank you very much, Julie. Hello, everybody. Let me go ahead and get into the slides. Julie, can you see my my slide? Just want to make sure.
Yes, it's just showing the gray bar at the top.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So today we're going to talk about continuous deployments using SSDT. This is a big topic to me because I came into a company. I currently work for a company called Xero, and we came into that company. I knew nothing about DAC PACs. I knew nothing about things like that, and I learned so much just getting through the process that this was helpful to me, and I thought that this would be helpful to other people. So we'll go continue on the slides, and I'll give you a little bit more background and things like that. So who am I? Like I said, Julie said, my name is Christopher Wolf. I'm on Twitter. I have an email if you have any questions. I have a blog, but it's mostly BI based. But if you have any other questions on this topic or anything about database administration, please don't hesitate to reach out. So the objectives of this talk is we're going to talk about what are continuous deployments. We're going to talk about DAC PACs and published profiles. We're going to talk about the SQL Package .exe command, and we're going to show you how to use some tools to help you facilitate these deployments. And then we're going to talk a little bit about automation. And if anybody has any questions, you can ask during the talk. I've asked Julie. So it's a very interactive talk, so if anybody has any questions, please let me know. We can also cover anything at the end. So some basic assumptions of this talk basically are that you have a basic knowledge of SQL Server data tools for Visual Studio. It's not necessarily that you have to have it, but it'd be good if you did. You just have to, it's a free tool from Microsoft. You just have to download it. It usually comes with your install of SQL Server, but now it's basically, they kind of spun everything off into off the install on the newer versions. So you can just download it on its own, basically. Basic knowledge of XML for published profile manipulation. If you don't, there's tons of things on MSDN about XML, so that way you can better figure it out for yourself. And then basic knowledge of how relational database schema works. I hope you understand how a database schema works. Otherwise, maybe this is not the right group for you. But basically, specifically Microsoft SQL Server in this case because of SSDT, because basically SSDT own the DAC PACs and things like that only work with SQL Server. There aren't any other tools for like Postgres or anything like that. So continued deployments, we'll just talk about, give you a brief overview of why we want to do this, basically. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're kind of trying to cut down the amount of code in each release. We're going to make those sprints smaller. We want to make sure that we don't have like a month's worth of data to release at one time. We want to get down to like maybe just whatever we did that day is our ultimate goal. But to start with, if you're doing month-long sprints, maybe get them down to 2 weeks be a good play to go with. We're also going to give development teams their ownership of their own releases. Currently, if anything goes wrong in most shops, the DBAs and the sysadmins have to pick up where the developers left off. This takes ops out of the way altogether and gives it to those small teams and says, you broke it, you bought it. And this helps a lot where that friction between those two teams don't really exist anymore with these kind of things. Amazon, Netflix, and all these other big companies, they're doing this currently. So they take care of their own stuff, basically, and they don't have to worry about it. And then we're going to catch issues earlier in the process. So usually most of the time, if you have a month-long sprint, things like that, you're going to have tons of stuff that is in flight while you're doing your testing. And things could totally change by the time you actually get to production. This will catch those things and make sure that they are not any blockers or anything away like that. So what are some steps to start getting there? The first is every developer will have their own version of the database on their own machine. In order for them to have ownership, they must test on their own. I know that this is really hard for some developers, but you've got to make them do their own testing at least a little bit on their own machine. If it doesn't work on their machine, it's not going to work in production. So that's a first step, is basically just not writing SQL scripts just out in the wild and hopefully it works. This will help it to where it gets its own thing. So when they are complete with their individual tasks, they check the SSDT project into source control system. So this requires you to put your database under source control. GitHub, Team Foundation Server, whatever works for you. There's a million there. I think Redgate's got one too, but it doesn't matter. You want to have source control of your database. That way, that source control will be easy to understand and see. You go back and say, oh, this guy did this part. Let's fix that problem. And then if you have a little bit bigger company, make sure to get deployment manager or a project manager that will integrate those branches and take care of source control. This requires maybe a project manager to learn a little bit about Git or Team Foundation Server and make sure that they are doing the releases themselves, not the individual teams. You have like one overall arching project manager that does this. We do this at Xero. It works very well. That way, only one person, there's not a ton of cooks in the kitchen while you're trying to do a release. This one person says, okay, there's an error. I go back to this team, figure out with this team, then we re-release again. So it makes it a lot easier to where people aren't just trying to fix things on the fly, things like that. Once a release has been declared, the manager will make a release branch. All changes then will be merged to that branch. In preparation for release and prod, you don't have anybody like doing last minute changes, things like that. If you do, you go all the way back to the beginning and start over again. That way you don't have any issues in flight that aren't tested. So on to continuous deployment. Once all the code has been merged, we deploy the, often called live stage or just test. It all depends on the company. It'll basically, you basically want to have a prod backup, a recent version of a prod backup there. So that way you have like tests that's actual, data that's actually, tested in live, things like that. You can do some obfuscation of the data in those development environments. There's nothing wrong with that. Probably a better idea if you do. But you want to have something that's as close to live as possible, because if you just have test data, it may or may not work against like workloads, things like that. So QA commences some data testing. It usually happens a week before the release, so the QA can flesh out any issues. Usually they're continually testing up to the time of release, basically. And then we release to live. It's that simple. We're going to make it so. So a little bit about DAC packs and published profiles. So these are the tools that we're mainly going to be using for these type of deployments. So a DAC pack is what's called a data tier application. Basically has all your schema in any one database. It's a single entity, so that way we don't have a bunch of different scripts out there. This saved us so much time using this kind of release schedule instead. Rather than multiple SQL scripts that may fail, may not, and you have to put in like if object exists stuff in there. No, this does it all for you. It does comparisons against the prod version, only releases what you need to, and can be used to, you have security credentials. And remember this word, idempotent. This is the best part. It can rerun this DAC pack over and over and over again, and then it just does what the code that I need, and doesn't do anything more. So if I do it like 30 times, I'm only releasing that one time, basically. So a close relative is what's called a backpack, which contains all the database in the database along with the schema information. I would not recommend a backpack. It's good, but I'd rather have the DAC pack and then a backup, if that's what you're looking for. The backpacks they're okay. They're just not really used out in the wild that much. It's up to you. If you got small enough thing, a backpack would be fine. If you're like looking at like less than 10 gigs of data, that's fine. So think of this as a DAC pack, and then your fully loaded REI thing is basically a backpack. So published profiles, it's basically a collection of key value pairs that are used as a DAC pack, and this is where the XML comes into play. It's properties like whatever your database name is, the connection strings, command variables, environment. So let's since we alluded on that, let's talk about SQL Package.exe a little bit. So command line tool provided by SQL Server that automates extractions, exporting, importing, publishing. It does many other things other than deployments. So it just can install of SQL Server itself. So It's automatically installed with every version of SQL Server. What version is depends on if you told it to go to install to a different path, it will be like different things. So basically, if you went to a different path, it would be whatever your path name you're going to, Microsoft SQL Server 110 DAC and bin. I think the newer versions, I haven't looked at 2017 yet, so maybe 2017, maybe a different file version, but you can usually find it. It's pretty easy. You know, we all have easy search on our Windows anymore, so it should be pretty easy. So I'm not sure. Well, since this is a 32-bit Windows program, it would not be available for Linux, I would say, but don't quote me on that. I haven't done too much with Linux yet. So built-in parameters that switch on and are off property deployments. You know, ignore permissions is a good one. Do I not want to push permissions to a prod system? That would be a good thing. Maybe just turn that off. You take care of that outside the DAC pack. Do not alter change data capture. This screws me up a little bit. The main thing is like is you have so if I have change data capture turned on and I try to alter a table that's in that change data capture, it will stop the deployment altogether. So what I usually turn this to false, so that way it overrides that and just puts it in. One thing to consider though is change data capture will not have that new column if you put a new column in the change data capture going, and they'll have to redo their change data capture, things like that. So just keep that in mind. Things like that, they're little gotchas. So it mostly has to do with stateful versus stateless changes. Anything to do with stateful changes, DAC PACs and SSDT do not take care of those. Those are things you're gonna have to take care of outside of the regular deployment, and that's fine. This is mainly meant for just code is all you're looking for. And then also drop objects not in source. This can be very dangerous, so just be careful that this is why you deploy through your different environments. That way you're always keeping the latest version of prod in your branch environment, in your live stage environment, in your test environment, on into prod. But you just gotta be careful that you're not dropping major things just in case somebody went in outside the deployment and deleted a table or something like that. So just keep that in mind. So using your tools, so a basic setup, what you want to have is have a deployment server to dispatch the code from. We call it, or now it's pods, I guess. I guess we've moved to a thing called a pod. Typically called a terminal server is also another name. Have the DAC pack and publish profiles checked into a versioning system. I cannot emphasize this enough. This will save your bacon a million times. It's so easy and makes it go so much faster if you have this done. So, and then uses SQL Package.exe to execute a command line script to publish the DAC pack and publish profile to the server. This is an example. Basically, I'm just calling the SQL Package.exe. And the /a means action. So I'm publishing to whatever server. My target connection string, the application is just called DB deployment. My data source is my prod database. My initial catalog, that is just whatever the database name is. And then I just have integrated security equals true. You could have a password if you want to, things like that. This is just a regular connection string, so it's not that big a deal. My source file is going to be my DAC pack itself. And you can put this anywhere inside your thing. And then, inside that terminal server, whatever works. And then the PR equals the published profile, basically. I don't know why PR, but that's just the name that you came up with. And then, basically it's just an XML file with all those little tags in it. So it's pretty easy to follow, not terrible. So, and then when you execute scripts, it'll print a log file to the screen of what actually is executed in the DAC pack. Another way to optionally to do that is to put a little caret at the end. If you're familiar with the way the command line works, you can put a little caret and pop it to a log, whatever works for you. So quick demo here. Let's go ahead. So I'm going to be using AdventureWorks. You know, it's not terribly complex or anything like that. See, we've got the regular tables. Oh, this is a table from when I did it last time, so I'll go ahead and drop that real quick. So, you know, all our regular stuff. So let's swap over to Visual Studio. So I'm going to make a new project. And the one I'm going to be doing is under SQL Server, and it's a SQL Server database project. I'm just going to call it, it says database 3. Let's call it virtual group. Sounds good. And then, so it's going to make a regular, you know, Visual Studio project. Studio Professional, but you can get a free version. I think there's it's called Community Edition. This works fine, works exactly the same as this. It doesn't matter which one you do. So the virtual group, the one it comes with doesn't have anything right now because I haven't imported a database. I haven't done anything to it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, where'd it go? Oh, that's right, it's here. I went to the wrong place. Right click is good. All right, import, and then I'm going to import the database. And where I'm going to import this from is my local connection. So this is like anything like importing on SSMS. This is pretty similar to that. So if you've ever done any importing on that, it's pretty much the same thing. I think I already have one here. Yeah, this one, that works. And then, and you just set it up like you do with any other regular connection. And then I can tell it what kind of importing I want. I can do application scope-based objects only. I can do reference logs. I can import the permissions if I want. Sometimes I wouldn't suggest that because it all depends on what you're doing with your database. And then also database settings if you've got like, you know, different collations, things like that. You can change the type of folder structure you like. You can do just schema or just do alphabetically by object type. I like to do schema and the object type. It makes it a lot easier. And then maximum files per folder. I think it looks like the max is 1,000 is as big as you get. So if you have a database that's a lot bigger, you might have some issues with this. But if you have over 1,000 in a database, maybe time to do some sharding. So we'll go ahead and start that. And it'll start importing all my stuff inside of from AdventureWorks, basically over into my project. And the project basically will just be SQL scripts. That's all you're going to see is just basically SQL scripts and some XML, and that's about it. It's pretty easy to follow. So as you see, the schema is coming in. I've got DBO, deployment, human resources, person, production, you know, all your regular stuff from AdventureWorks if you've ever messed with it. So
Chris, I got a couple questions here that are related. One is, how do you handle a database with over 2,800 stored procedures?
So yeah, that would be over the 1,000 limit, I guess. You may want to just break it out and do multiples is what it would come down to. I don't have experience on how it handles something that has like a ton of stuff, so that's a good question. So if anything, you could just bring in all the scripts themselves and then work it out that way. Possibility. So.
And another question is, when you do the import, when it does the tables, does it do the data as well, or just the DDL?
No, this is just DDL is all we're looking at, is because, like I said in the presentation before, it's backpack or DAC pack. So backpack has all your data. DAC pack just has your schema. That's all we care about is your code in this kind of thing. So.
And then did you know if this process could be scripted with PowerShell and then automated using Octopus or another deployment framework?
You're breaking up, Julie. Sorry, but you said basically automate it using Octopus or some other program. Yes, I will cover that on. That is something we currently do at our company as well. So,
Okay, thanks.
all right, no problem. All right, so finish. So we, you know, pretty easy. We've got all our basically kind of breaks it down here. Let me zoom in maybe a little bit, maybe easier. So we've got our, our functions, our stored procs, our tables, user-defined types if you've got them, views, pretty logical understanding of how it works. And it's by schema. That's why I like the schema one version. It's easier to understand. If you just have all the objects, it's got everything in alphabetical order, which is a little daunting. So, but that's easier for me to understand. So we've got all our stuff here, pretty easy to understand. So how about let's make a table? No big deal. So I'm going to add. So we can do one of a few ways. So I can do a new item, and then just a generic item, basically just as by object, and you can do script. You can do a table, which is kind of, if anybody has ever messed with Access, it's kind of like that Access kind of interface where you can just click checkbox, type in your column names, things like that, click checkboxes for primary key, things like that. So table value function, views, all those other good stuff. And you could just make a script, because a lot of these things are, you can do post deployments and pre-deployments before the things happens. If you've got some kind of funky stuff you need to have taken care of in the script, or if you're doing a branch environment where you've got to populate some of the tables with data after you're done deploying all the data. So we'll go ahead and let me go back and add. I'm just going to add a table. And yeah, I'm just going to add a regular table. We'll just call it table 1's fine. And the way the designer works is kind of nice. Like I said, you've got up here at the top, we've got our basically like kind of access-like thing where we just like have all our columns. We can add columns. It automatically puts in an ID for you. You can change that to whatever data type if you want, or name if you don't like the way that layout is. On the bottom, it actually has a regular script. If you're a script person, go for it. Just start typing it in, and then the other sections will start filling in for you and things like that. So I'm just gonna make it easy. It's a lot faster for me. So I don't know, name in varchar 50 is fine. Address in varchar. Let's see, let's say max on that. And then I don't know, phone, I guess. And we'll just say int on that one. So, it's pretty easy to make stuff. As you notice, as I'm adding columns, it's populating the script for me. I've already got a primary key. I can put constraints on this if I want, like allow nulls or don't allow nulls. If I really want the phone number, I could take that out and it says not null. You've also got indexes. If you've got other tables connected to this, I can add an index right here. Add new index, and that's pretty similar to what's in the SSMS. It's not terrible, and I can call it whatever I want. I'll just delete that for now. And then foreign keys and triggers, pretty easy to understand. It's not terrible, The primary key currently is unnamed, but I can give it a name if I wanted to. I don't know, like, no, it's not letting me do it. That's fine. But that's, basically that's my change. It's not terribly hard to understand, pretty easy to follow. So I've made my change. Let's say I've checked it into a source control solution, and you can actually, let's see here, view. There was a source control button. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is right now. Okay, well, I can't remember where it is right now, but there's a source control button in here where you can push it to source control if you already have it kind of set up. I think it's manage connections. Yeah, I don't have it set up yet. So I could connect this to the thing and get it going in a source control. And then the source control could take care of stuff for me, you know, things like that if you're doing automation. But I'm already done with this, so let's go ahead and let's do some. Now we want to build the solution. So just like everything else in code, you always do a build at the end of it, and it just should give me everything I'm looking. So our build succeeded. We have everything up to date, 0 failed, 0 skipped. You know, we're just making a table. It's not that big a deal. But one thing of note here, it's writing the model to here, and this is just inside Visual Studio itself, not SQL Server. So keep that in mind. But it has made me a DAC pack. So I've got to be if I wanted to. But one thing I want to show you first. So we have some properties also inside of this. I can change the platform I want to change it to. Currently it's in 2016. Oh, I should have changed that to 2012. Oh well. And then you know, my CLR, if I have any of that built in, you know, you can give it a build. This is also great. You can add variables to your deployment in case you have something that you need to push down stack. You build environments if you've got some command line you need to do before the build starts. Debugging, reference pass, you know, all kinds of stuff. This is really good for testing. If you have any, the code analysis is pretty good for testing. So most of these are brand new since I've done this talk the first time. So it's pretty good, pretty decent set of tools beforehand. So another thing I want to do is so in the build. Oh, where's the publish? Oh, I'm in the wrong place. So we also have published. So now I can push this to my other. It rebuilds it again first before it happens, and now I can push this to my other thing. But I can also create a profile. Oh crap! Give me 1 second. Sorry. Thought I had it plugged in. I guess I don't. Okay. So I can also create a profile just like the one we were talking about before, the publish profile. But, shoot. So when you click this advanced, this is all those tags I was talking about. This is every single tag that it's got available. And in the if you got 2012 version of Visual Studio, it doesn't have as many. It only has 2 tabs, but this in the new versions they have 3. So I can, you know, my general stuff is allow blocking, you know, do not alter replicants. This is all, it'll have stuff checked automatically for, but you can go through and customize this as much as you want. It is extensive, is the least of the words I can say about it. And then, you know, you can, this is the new tab is ignore, and this was a godsend because there was a ton of stuff we couldn't do before. So exclude is a great thing that they have now. Exclude the services, exclude triggers. There was permission things that would work. The logins wouldn't work, but the roles, not the roles, but the users would. So it was kind of a pain before, but now it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to save that profile. And you can also save it anywhere you want. You know, if we've got it in this virtual group here, but it doesn't necessarily have to be there. So, and then I just want to show you one here. And I'm going to go down to the Visual Studio folder just to show you where it pops that out. Virtual group. Bin debug. Okay, so it pops it into here, and then your published profile pops it kind of like outside of that. My suggestion is to pop it in the same thing, so that way you have it in the same area. But it all depends on where you want to move it around, things like that. So just keep that in mind when you're moving stuff around. So I'm just going to go ahead and oh, did I closed it? All right, that's fine. We'll go ahead and publish again. And like I said before, we've got our connection already going. Which one did I have? Oh yeah, this one. And yeah, we can register it as a data tier application too, and we can block it if you wanted to. It doesn't matter, but I'm just going to generate. Just to show you one thing, I'm going to generate the scripts. Oh, that's right. Because I am on a different version of SQL Server, that is one thing also to consider. I forgot about that. So this version of this database is, oops. Is in 2012. Because I am in 2012, I cannot release a version of 2016 to 2012. So keep that in mind when you're doing a release. This is, yeah, and I'm on a 2012 version of the SQL Server. Yeah, I should have checked this before I did things. Actually, let me see if I can, properties. I don't know that I can go backwards. Oops. I don't think I can. Maybe, let's see here. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is compatibility. So I can change the compatibility to 2012 and that might work. Let's see. Let's change and see what happens. Publish. All right. So VentureWorks isn't terribly huge. So this didn't take too long. Julie, is there any other questions that came up or anything?
Yes, we've got a few. Do you know
Okay.
what database permissions are required to extract the schema DDL for the extract import in the Visual Studio project?
I think you just have to have like, it's not full admin, but I think it's like the read schema one. I'm not sure 100% on that. That's a good question. I have permissions to everything, so go ahead.
Okay, next one. How do you handle importing stored procedures that are encrypted?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, it would come in as encrypted, basically, is what it would show. So that's a good question. We don't deal with that. Once we're in our environment on our company, we don't deal with encryption past that. We kind of trust our own people, but that's a good question. I'm not sure on that one.
What if you have a third-party CLR objects? Will it need to be included in the project?
I would, yes. I would absolutely do it. But check with your third party if that's okay, because sometimes you would be, by bringing in their code and looking at their code, you may be breaking your agreement with them. So just be careful.
And can you review again the difference between publish and deploy?
So it's basically the same. Well, deploy just is a generic term for any of those things you're doing. By doing this, by showing you this script, I'm deploying. Technically, it's a deployment script. Publish means I'm actually pushing to the server itself. So just keep that in mind when you're doing things, because there's also like a deployment report which shows you things that'll happen just like in an XML file, but it doesn't actually deploy anything. So it just shows you what's going to happen. So.
And then Steve was referencing the DAC packs getting deployed. Check the version of the specific database. For example, DAC pack 2.2 can only deploy to EventureWorks with 2.1. That way you don't execute a DAC pack with the wrong design version of the database.
Yes, correct. Well, but that's the thing. When it does the deployment, it will also do a compare to make sure you're not like behind or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. So, but that's something more housekeeping in-house is what I would say. So.
And this last one, I'm not sure if it pertains. It's, have you ever had to handle data manipulations through SSDT? For example, splitting a table into two tables while maintaining the data.
Yeah, and that comes down to post and pre-deployment scripts. That mainly you wouldn't handle within SSDT itself. Like this script I'm showing you here of what I actually did, I do not want to manipulate this at all. I would want to just deploy it as is if you're not into the DAC pack part, because you would have issues because it's looking at whatever's there and making the change at the time. Now, if you're changing something in the flight, that may not work out as well. So I would do that definitely in pre or post deployment scripts. So.
Okay, that's it for questions.
Sounds good. All right, so this is basically what it's going to do when I do a DAC pack release. A bunch of this is all in SQL commands, so keep that in mind. If not everybody's familiar with, let me make a new query. Tools. Oh no, query. If nobody uses command, you can change your SQL in SSMS to SQL command mode, and this is more command line style, is what it comes down to. You can set variables and things like that that are kind of outside the system of SSMS, and that's what you're doing here. Is you're setting a kind of a system variable kind of thing. Forgive me if I'm butchering the name of what that actually is called. Basically, it's just going through, if the database exists, if it doesn't exist, make a database, things like that. And then, it's right, we get to this point, it says, I'm creating the table. And that's all it is doing at this point. I'm just creating the table. And if I had a post-deployment script, it would have like something like /post deployment script, something like that right here. Is what it would say, and then it would do basically a select, update, insert, whatever you're doing, or the split like the guy was referencing earlier. If I had a pre, it would be just after the making of the database. If I had a pre, it would be right here instead. So keep that in mind if you're deciding to go these paths. All right, so no, I don't want to save that. But let's go ahead and just deploy it on its own. Once again, I'm going to use this one, click OK, and I'm going to publish. And successful. So if we're doing it through Visual Studio, this is kind of what you'll see. It won't give you a ton of information about what actually happened. It'll just say, you know, I'm making my publish script, I'm making the script, I'm excluding, executing that script, and then, you know, it says complete. So not terrible. If we go back to SSMS, I now have a table 1. So, and it has exactly like my columns, name, address, phone. Not terribly complex. It's pretty easy to follow, and it's really easy to get into. So just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and continue on with our presentation and then. So let's talk a little bit about automation. We're here. I am a lazy, but lots of you are. We're here to make our jobs easier, and we want to make scripts to make everything. I don't want to go through the right-clicking, button pushing, things like that. That's why we want to do this. Why do I want to automate? Consistency. That's the main thing we're talking about here, though. Every time I do a release, every time I do a publication, things like that, I want them to be the same process every time. That way I cut out the problem of it's the process issue. No, it's not. You did something in your code and I need to fix your code is what it comes down to. Less errors, it makes it easier to troubleshoot, quicker to recognize where the errors come from. Like I said, it's not the process, it's your code. And then speed and ease of use. Single call to execute the release. Like I said, when I came into Xero, we were doing script releases. Sometimes it would take 2 to 4 hours to release because we had to go through, there was a script that wasn't right, oh, I forgot, I added this the last minute, so on and so forth. No, we decided that wasn't working and we wanted to go faster. Now with DAC pack releases, and I'm using Octopus Deploy for our deployments, it takes me less than 10 minutes to release every time. And it's the same thing every time, easy to use. So some assumptions, you've got to be doing regular backups for this to work. Weekly, full, daily diffs, and 15-minute transaction logs. This could be 10, could be 20, it's up to you. But these are kind of the recommended standards. You have database testing already in your release process. There are many tools. Redgate has one. TST is another one. T-SQL-T. I highly recommend T-SQL-T. These are things that would make it to where you can push the button and rest assured if there's a problem, it'll take care of itself. So taking snapshots before a release occurs, this is optional, but kind of recommended. I don't do it anymore, that's for sure. I will tell you that. You know, make sure to drop those snapshots if you have issues with it. The reason I don't do them anymore, and this comes down to how big our website is. Think about if you have a release and an hour later, your manager comes to you and says, hey, we've got to roll back to that snapshot. Your company has lost an hour worth of data. How much money have you lost as a company? How much data have you incurred? We have so much data flowing in at our company, it's not even worth it anymore. So we just don't even deal with it. If we have an issue, we fail forward. So, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So some tools to help you automate. Source control, like I said, I cannot emphasize this enough. GitHub, TFS, those are perfect tools. There's nothing wrong with that. Continuous integration software, TeamCity, Jenkins, Bamboo, Octopus deploy. These all things do automatic builds for you and automatically do releases for you if you need to. Some scripting software, I highly recommend using some PowerShell. Ruby can be used. Bash is fine. Command line, I've been using Python here lately, but PowerShell has pretty much everything you'd ever want to know when it comes to SSDT, especially with the new SQL Server modules. If you don't know anything about that, check out Mike Fall's presentation on the new SQL Server Power Tools. They're really good. So PowerShell tools, sorry. So some steps to automate. We're going to check in the release, usually through a release branch in the source control. Like I said again, the CI software will check for a new release. It will do this automatically. TeamCity does this automatically and starts the build on its own. And then the CI software will run the release. It will usually push it to a third party or something, or it could have it deployed on its own and just start doing the release itself. And then we'd automate the things. But what if I have to roll back? That's what I hear from every DBA that I ever wanted to do this with. Stop trying to roll back. It's not going to happen. It's over. Rollback is not a thing anymore. If you have a problem, you fail forward. You make sure that you have all your checked into GitHub, all your stuff ready. If you've got an issue in your release, you do a hot fix immediately once you're done with your release. That's all it takes. And this works for us continuously. It works so well. So, but in the questions thing, I will do a thing right now about this. So everybody talks about continuous deployment. Very few companies are actually doing it. Continuous deployment is where we get everything automated. I will tell you right now, we are not doing continuous deployment. We are doing continuous delivery. Everything is automated except for when I get to prod. We're not there yet. And there are a lot of companies that just never will get there, and there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you follow these kind of tenets, though, you will get to the point where you will go faster, way faster. So that's my 2 cents about it, you know. So some credits, these are just the things I went and looked up information about. You know, Microsoft has a ton about this. There's some good blogs I've looked at about it. And that helped me along the way, things like that. These are also things I used to get us to a better deployment at my job as well. So that's all I got. Does anybody have any questions or?
Yes, just a few, I guess just one more. Can you ignore column order in deployment?
I can, yes. Well, I see what you're saying. I think what he's talking about is when you add a column in the middle, will it have problems? Will it rebuilds the table? No, you cannot do that. You've still got to add it to the very end of the table, and that was a big thing we had to push into our developers for a while there. You have to put it at the very bottom of the table, otherwise it will. The process is it will make a temp table, copy the data over from your regular table to the temp table, delete your old table, and then rename the temp table to your original name of your first table. So it can take quite a while if you're doing that. So I would not recommend changing the order. You know, this is a relational database. Order doesn't matter. So it's not a big deal to me. So.
Well, that sounds great. That's it for questions. I wanted to thank you for your time and the presentation. This presentation was being recorded and will be posted to the DBA Virtual Chapter archive page. It will either show up today or tomorrow. Chris, thank you again, and I appreciate your time. A very interesting presentation.
Thank you very much. Like Julie was saying, SQL Saturdays are a great thing. I will be at Kansas City here in a couple weeks and giving the same. If you want to talk to me in person, show up and say hi. So.
Really appreciate it. Thanks again, Chris.
All right. Have a good day.
Bye.